tax freight train is bearing down on your retirement. To protect yourself, you'll have to harness the power of zero.
Hey folks, welcome to the Power of Zero show. I am your host, David McKnight, best-selling author of The Power of Zero, Look Before You LERP, The Volatility Shield, and Tax-Free Income for Life. If you are looking for help to navigate all of the pitfalls that stand between you and the 0% tax bracket, head over to davidmcknight.com. Happy to introduce you to a qualified, vetted, trained, personally by me, advisor who's a member of our elite POZ advisor group that can help shepherd you to the 0% tax bracket. If you are an advisor who needs help transitioning your practice to a Power of Zero type practice, head over to powerzero.com. And don't forget that all of these episodes are now on David McKnight, and they are committed to video. In many cases, our videos, including our interviews, will show up in video at our YouTube channel. So don't forget to check that out. Today, we are going to be airing the second half of our interview with Van Mueller. Once again, I know Van very well from our time together in Milwaukee, and he is a nationally renowned expert on the fiscal condition of our country and all of the fiscal challenges that face our country over the next 20 years. And in this episode, we're going to talk about some of those things that you can do to insulate yourself against what's coming down the pipe. So please enjoy the second part of my interview with Van Mueller.
You want to hear another thing that'll blow your mind? With what we printed last year and what we're going to print this year, it's equivalent to the entire economy of Japan.
Wow.
And the really scary part that you and I'm sure you were going to ask me about, but I'll jump ahead, is I do not believe that we will continue to hold the reserve currency status down the road. Now, I'm not smart enough to predict when exactly, so I'll just say down the road so that I can bail out of an exact prediction. But here's the problem with that. If we lose the reserve currency status, we also then see our standard of living go down in our country almost immediately. And isn't that a tax as well? And so the reason that we haven't lost it yet is because we're smart salespeople in the United States. We sold the Kool-Aid to the rest of the world. The European Union is printing money, China's printing money, Japan is printing money, South America's printing money, Bank of England is printing money, Bank of Canada is printing money. Everybody's printing money. They're destroying the purchasing power of this money. And so we're just doing it to an extent that's never even been heard of or seen of before. And you know what? All of this sounds like bad news. But again, if you talk to the proper advisors, the proper specialists, they can show you how not only can you set up a strategy that you won't be hurt by these things, you can actually take advantage of them.
Yeah, there's no reason. And I'm often accused by readers or members of the general public, like I'm sure you are, of being inflammatory or being a fear monger. And the goal is not to scare you for the sake of scaring you. It's to raise awareness so that you recognize that the traditional approaches to retirement are not as viable as you thought they were, and that there's ways. The analogy I use is your money's sitting on a train track. There's a massive train bearing down on it, and you have time to get your money shifted off the tracks and get it protected. David Walker, I'm not sure if you know this, but he recently came out with a book called America in 2040, Still a Superpower? ? Like we don't know. And he looks into his crystal ball and lays out a scenario that could take place. And it's a pretty grim and sobering sort of reality. And my biggest takeaway from what he told me, or from what I learned from the book, was that the single thing that could really solve all of our nation's problems comes down to one word, and that one word is leadership. In other words, if we have politicians who are willing to make tough decisions that mean reducing spending, increasing revenue, some combination of the two, and doing it for the right reasons, then we could really salvage our country. But until voters start to elect people that are willing to show that type of leadership, these problems will continue to persist.
David, that's why I keep jumping in and saying, let me say it a different way. There is no end of the world scenario here. We will eventually fix everything, and I'm not kidding. We will fix it with great leadership, or we will fix it with a calamity equivalent to 2000 to 2002 or 2007 and 8, but it will be fixed. And all it really does is, for the people that don't strategize, that don't plan, it just means a lower standard of living. And so what I ask those people, if it's not the end of the world, was it your goal when you set out to build these programs, to build this IRA, to build this 401k? Was it so that eventually your family would have a lower standard of living or a better standard of living? And when you put it into those terms, now it's not the end of the world. It's that, hey, you have a choice to make. And either way, everybody, life will continue, life will go on. But if you want a better standard of living, you're going to have to take action, because the establishments that we depend on, government, please listen, mathematically, government can no longer fix what's happening. When you hear Professor Kotlikoff, who again is one of my favorites, he talks about the fiscal deficit, $240 trillion. And most Americans don't understand what kind of money that is. You and I, to us, this is very basic information, but a million seconds is 11 and a half days. A billion seconds is 11 years. Okay, or 32 years, excuse me. A trillion seconds is 32,000 years. And so we're getting up to where we're going to be looking at a quadrillion, and now you're talking about 32 million years. So when you start putting those kinds of figures on the amount of debt that we're creating, it's never going to be paid back. And so you can make some assumptions from that. Will the government do everything in their power to keep interest rates low? Because if they have to service or pay the interest on that debt, then they want to keep interest rates low. Second, will it have an impact on our markets? Eventually it will. There are many predicting that the next 10 years will be very much like 2000 to 2010. Lots of volatility, but no gains over the 10 years. And so my question, I ask every advisor, I ask every customer, if the interest rates are zero and the stock market averages zero returns over the next 10 years, can you still have a successful financial and retirement future? And the answer is a resounding yes, because we have the products and we have the ability to put together strategies that will allow you to win under any circumstance. But you have to take the time to build the strategy, or these powers, which are overwhelming, will destroy everything that you've worked for.
You are the king of questions, and you like to ask questions to get people to open up about their finances and challenge the way that they think about retirement in entirely new ways. Can you share with us some of your favorite questions that you like to ask your clients and prospects to get them to think about all of these issues that we've been talking about?
This is the number one question. It's number one in my questions. What's the best age to take your Social Security? And before you answer, do you know why I'm asking? Because study after study on the front page of USA Today and the Wall Street Journal says 93% of Americans take Social Security to their detriment and not to their benefit. And listen to this. They say that mathematically, when Social Security, the last time it was adjusted, whether you took it at 62 or whether you took it at 70, the break-even age was 80. And so when the life expectancy was around 80, that was a good decision. However, a male who makes it to age 65 has a life expectancy of 86. A woman who makes it to age 65 has a life expectancy of 89. And this is very wonderful. A married couple who make it to age 65, there's a 50% chance that one of them will make it to age 95 years old. And so if the goal is to maximize retirement income, you should do everything in your power to maximize your Social Security benefit, which absolutely will be paid. There's just too many people getting it for the government not to find a way to fund it. So the benefit will be paid. And here's the important part. I even tell the people that ask me, what if I die before 80? I say it was still the right decision. Do you know why? Because the ultimate goal is to maximize the most retirement income that you can have that you can't outlive. It's not a worrisome thing if you run out of income too soon rather than if you live too long. And so we ask them all the time. We say, if you retired at 65 and you die at 70, are we going to have any trouble planning your retirement? No. But if you retire at 65 and you live till you're 95 and you run out of money when you're 72, and oh, by the way, isn't 72 the new 52 for most Americans? What's the rest of your retirement look like? And so we want them to use their own common sense to reason out why it's beneficial to maximize this foundational important benefit. And then what it does is it opens up other planning. This is what you teach, David. This is what I've learned with you. This is very important. The customer will then ask, how do I get to age 70? What do I use for income? And I say, that's very interesting. Let me show you something amazing about our tax law. The standard deduction in 2021 is $27,800 for a married couple over the age of 65. And the 10% bracket is $19,900. And if you pay 10% tax on $19,900, it's $1,990. So I can give you $47,700 of income every year until you turn 70. And you will only pay $1,990 in federal tax, which is 0.4%. Now, once you get to 70, then we'll turn on that much higher income and we'll take a lower amount from your investments. And doesn't that allow you to build this wonderful, almost tax-free benefit? And then at that time, then we'll sit down and show you how to convert whatever taxable money you have left into non-taxable money so that you can pass it on to the next generation. Please, that's just one little example, but there's all kinds of planning opportunities if you really understand the questions. Another question, unless you have one.
Let me add one comment in before we hear your next question. One of the things that I tell readers in my most recent book, Tax-Free Income for Life, is if you really want to know how long you're going to live, go through the life insurance underwriting process. Those folks are in the business of predicting how long you're going to live. And if they give you a top rating they're in the business of making that prediction, and they're pretty darn good at it. They're staking a lot of money on it. And if you try to figure out whether you should take your Social Security earlier or later, go through that underwriting process. And if you get a top rating, then obviously you're incented to push that decision off. So yeah, let's hear your next question.
It's question number 30 in my 40 questions. I go to people all the time and I say, Grandma and Grandpa, I never call them old people or seniors or over 65s. Grandma and Grandpa are power words, and I've come to understand that. March 27th of 2020, we had our first grandchild.
Oh, congratulations.
And I'm so proud to be a grandfather. I don't even know how to tell you. It's so powerful. I know 50-year-old beautiful women who do not mind being called grandma. They're proud of it. They love it. So they're power words. And if you learn to use power words in conversations with people, I say, Grandma and Grandpa, can I ask you something? If we could show you a way to stay in complete control of your money until you took your last breath, but instead of giving that money to the government, a nursing home, or a hospital, you can keep that money in your family for generations to come. At the very least, come on, at the very least, wouldn't that be worth an hour of your time? I've never, please, you're not going to believe this. I tell agents all the time, I bet you I've asked that question 25,000 times. I've never had anyone say no, because it's a common sense question. Doesn't sound like I'm trying to sell them anything. They say, what do we have to do? If you'll sit with me, I'd like to ask you a series of questions that will help you to clarify how you could be in control of what happens rather than allowing these other entities to be in control. Now, come on, wouldn't that be worth 45 minutes to an hour of your time? And for everybody, it truly is, because they want to know.
Yes. Yeah, I love both of those questions. Those are both very powerful questions. In the closing moments of our interview here, any other questions that you feel it's a couple old friends getting together, having a good chat. Yeah, time flies by. Any additional questions that you think can help get people to think about their financial futures in a different way?
I have a couple more, but I want to just please say, nobody's paying me to say this, but so proud of my friendship with you, and I'm so proud of what you're doing for the American people, getting this information out to them in a dramatic way. If you haven't seen the movie, The Power of Zero, The Tax Train is Coming, please take a look at it. And there's a guy in the movie, his name is Don Blanton, who I also love. And he looks right at the screen and he asks, he said, would you cash that check? It's one of the most powerful things you've ever seen in a movie. And it's amazing and gives you a clear understanding of what a mess the government is making of all of this. Here's another question that I just adore. Is there somebody at the Internal Revenue Service that you just decided you're so madly in love with that you want to leave them a whole bunch of your money? Did you make a decision when you set up your IRA or your 401k that the primary beneficiary of those funds would be the Internal Revenue Service rather than your family? And then I say, do you know if you have 2 or more named beneficiaries that it is highly probable that the primary beneficiary will be the Internal Revenue Service? Can I give you an example? If you have, let's say, $400,000 in your 401k and you and your wife pass away, you both have to pass away before this tax occurs. But when both of you are gone, you have 2 children. And so what the government is going to do, these children are going to take this money in a lump. So if they pay 40% federal and state tax, that's $160,000. That leaves $240,000 divided by your 2 children. They each get $120,000. So the primary beneficiary of this money that you work your whole life for will be the Internal Revenue Service and not either of your children. Even more importantly is, let's say that you use $200,000 to build this account to $400,000. And what I'm telling you is that if you don't do any planning, do you understand that if the government takes 40% of it when you die, that essentially you were a tax collector for the Internal Revenue Service for the balance of your life? Are you okay with that? Most people, we assume that they understand that, and they don't. I would like to close with this. I like to ask and have conversations with people. And I make jokes about, I just sold somebody in a grocery store a few months ago. I'll tell David, he'll know the name of it, in Sendix. I was in Sendix and I had a mask on, and everybody has a mask on, and I grocery shop. And I walked up to this lady and I said, ma'am, I'm an insurance agent. Please don't freak out. I'm not going to try and sell you anything. I said, I just have a couple of questions and you could help me a ton. And I think you'd have some fun with the answers. Would it be okay? I promise. And if this is any way a problem, I'll go away right now. But I really think you'd enjoy the questions. Would it be okay? Because you'd really help me to help a lot of people. And she said, of course, I'd love it. And I said, I love to shop, and I can tell you're here shopping. I say, God, isn't it harder to shop when you can't smell anything? It's hard. She laughed. That was what I was trying to do. Then I said, here's the part that I wanted to ask you. And I promise as soon as I'm done asking, I'll go away. But I just want your opinion. I say, would it be more beneficial to take a tax deduction now on a small amount of money when taxes are historically as low as they will probably ever be in your lifetime, and transfer to the future a whole bunch of money that the government could decide at whatever level they want to tax that money at? Or would it be more beneficial for you to pay your taxes on a small amount of money right now when taxes are historically as low as they'll ever be, and transfer a whole bunch of money to the future that the government can't tax the heck out of? Which would be more beneficial for your family? And she looks at me cross-eyed and said, come on, that's easy. It's the second one. I said, well, that really leaves one more question, doesn't it? She said, what's that? I said, why are you doing the first one? And she went, I'm not kidding. She went, oh my God, I didn't even realize. And what I'm begging all the listeners to understand is that I believe 99% of Americans don't realize, because they don't understand tax law. They don't understand the government's dramatic needs for revenue in the future. And if they don't come to understand that soon, there's going to be a lot of people's hopes and dreams that are going to be decimated by the government's need for revenue.
Right.
Here's the point of that. I started to walk away and she said, wait a minute. And I said, what do you mean? I promised you I'd leave. And she said, no, I'd really like one of your cards. And I said, oh, no, ma'am, I really put up a struggle. I said, I promised you I wasn't going to do that. She said, no, I'd really like one of your cards. A week later, her and her husband called me and I sold them. And that's what I want you to understand. Talk to your dry cleaner, your guy that changes your tires, does your tune-ups, does your oil changes, anybody that you're at a dinner party, all your relatives, all your friends, all your existing customers. Don't assume any of them know this. Ask them.
And of course, all of these things are highlighted in your monthly newsletter, which can be found at Van Mueller. And you spell your last name a little bit different than most Millers. It's Mueller. So Van.
That's because it's Dutch.
That's Dutch. So Van, Mueller.com. And particularly advisors can find all of those questions on audio, and then they can also subscribe to your monthly newsletter, which I've subscribed to for years. And it's amazing how much the whole concept there is that you read all these newspapers every day and you distill the main nuggets out of those newspapers into your newsletter so that the rest of the world doesn't have to do. So we've got the audio of those questions. We've got your newsletter. Anything else coming around the corner for you? Are you going to write a book? Are you going to go on a nationwide crusade once COVID starts to settle down? What's next for Van Mueller?
Yes, all of that. I'm going to start doing in-person speaking again March 25th in Orlando, and I have some April speeches in Phoenix. I have outlines for 5 books right now, but I'm trying to think of a really spectacular title like Power of Zero. I love that title. I'm sorry, I love it. But what I'm working on the most that I really think will be beneficial to everybody is I'm thinking about creating a YouTube channel that'll have 500 to 1,000 vignettes in it where you can find out how to prospect, where you can find out about taxes, where you can develop strategies to use cash value life insurance beneficial to you, and so forth and so on. And so that's what I'm working on right now. I love what I do. I'm never going to retire. I feel like this is the greatest time ever to be an insurance and financial professional. And please, even though I know there's customers out there, I want them to hear this. It's the greatest time ever to own cash value life insurance. For the first time ever, you're the competition if you sell and own cash value life insurance, because there's nothing else that will be able to compete with what it can do for the American person based on what the government is about to do to the American people.
Very good, Van. Well, it's been an absolute honor to catch up with my old Wisconsin cheesehead friend. It's always a pleasure to spend time with you, and we look forward to hopefully having you back on the show very soon.
I'd love to, please. I'm so proud of my friendship with you. Keep doing what you're doing. It's a spectacular benefit to everybody. I can't wait for you to get on a plane and come back to Milwaukee so we can do some stuff together again. We'll figure it out. Just stay well, say hi to your family, and we'll talk soon.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. That was terrific.
Thank you. And like I told you, I can follow along where you lead.
Yeah, no, that was terrific. That's going to be just red meat for advisors and customers alike. That's just going to be awesome. And I will send you the link to all of this. I have, particularly for the video YouTube part, I have a guy that really dresses it up. And when we talk about national debt, we'll put little graphics up and it'll just look awesome by the time it's done. It'll look great. And as soon as that's done, I'll shoot it over to you, and we'll hopefully look forward to seeing you real soon.
David, everything you do is of the highest quality. Again, a good mentor for me. I am appreciative, and just please don't mess with this COVID. It's very weird who it chooses to be. I think I'm one of those people that's asymptomatic. My first shot, I didn't have any results. They say most of the people that we talk to, the second shot, you get a little bit of a reaction. I still feel I won't get much of a reaction, but there's so many people that you think would never be bothered by this, and they are. And again, I think you and I and people like Tom Hagna and Ed Slott and Don Blanton and Pamela Yellen and all the people. I think we're about to have the best 10, 20 years of our careers because the American people are going to need what we do. just are going to need us.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. I like to say we have the message to match the moment.
We do.
Message to match the moment.
I'm going to steal that from you.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Van, again. And I look forward to having lunch with you at the Chancery the next time I'm in Wisconsin.
No, we'll go someplace good. I'll treat you to Lake Park Beach.
All right. I love that place. I love their French onion soup. So let's go there.
So stay well. Talk to you soon.
Take care, man. Talk to you soon.
Once again, I would like to thank Van Mueller for taking time out of his busy schedule to share with us some of his insight and expertise vis-a-vis the fiscal condition of our country. Once again, if you are looking for help navigating all of this, that's what we're here for. We're happy to help lay out a plan that insulates you from all of the things that we talked about in this episode. Just head over to davidmcknight.com, opt in for a strategy session, and we will connect you with top-rated Power of Zero advisor, a member of our elite Power of Zero advisor group. Remember, there's not very many members of this group. This is the gold standard when it comes to tax-free retirement planning in the nation. And it's not easy to become a member of this group. There's a lot of vetting and training and qualifying that goes on. Once again, you can follow me on Twitter at McKnight & Co. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast wherever you stream podcast episodes. Thanks for being with us. We'll look forward to chatting with you same time next week.